Okay, I'll mess this up. Are you guys ready?
It?
You want me to try it?
This is good. Everyone, F's in chat.
I need the F's.
F's in chat for Tim killing the intro here.
Tell me when.
Really?
Tell me when. I mean, I'll mess up, and then you could take over.
No, you do it. This will be fun. I've got everything going, so really, whenever you're ready, Tim.
Hey guys, welcome back to FAMcast. This is episode 46. I'm joined by my good friend Steak Sauce, aka Trevor.
That's me.
And Riley, aka The Brain.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
And we are here today to talk about you, good sir.
Me?
Yeah, you, right there in the middle, Riley. Yeah.
It's
How's
disorienting because on my phone I'm in the middle, but on Discord I'm on the side. So
That's.
Every time I glance at my phone, I'm like, wait, what's going on?
Where am I?
So, I personally, Trevor, I don't know how much you know Riley, but I personally know Riley. I've known, Riley, I mean, it's been 10 years, right? I mean, something close to that.
So. Yeah.
I've known Riley for quite a while. He worked at GameStop when I worked at GameStop. And in Piqua at the time, there were two GameStops, and they were like almost right beside each other. To be honest with you, they were one was in the Piqua Mall, and one was right by the Walmart.
Yeah,
right?
Basically across the street.
Right. So they were right there. So they decided that was a dumb idea. Who would have thought? And
Because we all know how lively the Piqua Mall is these days.
Correct,
Yeah.
right. They also decided that since I worked at the other one, it was the better one. So they shut down the one that Riley worked at. And me being such a nice and generous person, I was like, we should get Riley to come to ours. He seems like a swell person. There's no way he's going to ruin two GameStops. So we brought him over. And we became like the besties of besties there. We were I feel like we were the only people who like when we worked there, when we worked together, it was always fun. We always talked about the most random stuff. Because we always had the same opinions on, like, GameStop.
They're not good opinions.
Right.
Well, I think we're all in similar company there since we're all ex GameStop, so
Right.
we all know what it's like.
And something that kind of flourished from that friendship, for as temporary as it was while I was a part of it, me and Riley kept talking about wanting to do like a podcast or something. Because you did something before AverageGeeks, didn't you, Riley? I think you were telling me about it.
Yeah, I was actually had co-started a podcast called the GameStop podcast.
Right.
With a buddy of mine, a guy that I had met online, and I think that was back. Wow, we were pushing 200 episodes by the time I think that you and I had met. And so we had done that, and that was we'd bounced around to a couple different sites. We started with our own, and then we joined another site that had started with our podcast. And then as that kind of grew, and we all started kind of doing our own things, the other guy that started it actually writes for GameStop now, or does video editing for GameStop.
Really?
Or GameSpot, not GameStop.
I was like, wow, well, that's
Sorry,
interesting.
Yeah, no, the one that's not run by Satan. So we were doing that, and I was just, you and I, Tim, had talked about just some of kind of the frustrations and stuff of moving from site to site, and sort of the lack of control and creative a lot of times that, we were kind of under being parts of other sites.
Right.
And so I think that's kind of what started it. It was just like, man, it would be nice if we could, just kind of do our own thing and have our own creative outlet for that kind of stuff.
No, and that was so, and Riley introduced me to a lot of things. He introduced me to Game Twerp and that stuff. He introduced me to Tricky and oh my God, Proven Gamer. I actually was writing for Proven Gamer for a little bit because Riley got me introduced to that, and I did that, and that was a fun little ride. But then we decided to try to do our own thing. Correct?
Yep.
And it was definitely you who came up with the name, because I didn't, because I couldn't come up with a name to save my life. Nothing new there.
Well, we had been like texting back and forth and bouncing names off of each other, and nothing was really sticking. And then one night I was sitting in class, one of the college classes I was going to, and I was like, oh my God, like I came up with the name AverageGeeks, and I looked it up, and lo and behold, like it wasn't taken, it wasn't already a thing, because everything that we had talked about was, oh well, that's already in use. And actually, fun fact, when we called GoDaddy, initially we set up through GoDaddy, and when we called them to purchase the name, the guy was like, wow, that's not already taken? Like, the guy from GoDaddy was like, holy crap, that's available? So...
Yeah, and it was a great name. I still love the name AverageGeeks. I think that's just it rolls off the tongue well. It's one of those names that you'll remember. It makes sense. And the nice thing about it being AverageGeeks is geeks can mean many things. It's not just a one name title, right? So I really liked how that name sounded and how it worked. So we did that. So me and Riley did that for a little bit. We had a couple other people on with us, and honestly, I'm not even 100% sure what happened. Like I still look back and I'm just like, it kind of just, as unfortunate as it is to say, kind of fell apart, right? I mean, is that the best way to? I mean,
no, absolutely. I mean, part of it was, and like it's not my first rodeo. I've done this a lot through Game Twerp, and good God, I could go over the stories of all the things that we went through, the iterations before we found our core Game Twerp crew. And so, I mean, you always kind of have that growing pain and shifting of personnel and people coming and going. Oh, people that are super excited, but then when it comes down to, kind of where the rubber meets the road, people, oh, well, I've got this, I've got that, I can't show up, I can't do, oh yeah, I can write, but then they never turn anything in.
Yep.
So I mean, a lot of it was just growing pains. And I mean, before that, even before I was as GameStop, I used to write for a site called Uncle Gamer, and I was working nights at the time, so I had a lot of free time, and I was pumping out articles for them constantly. In fact, that's how I became a writer for them. I was constantly sending them stuff, and they were like, you know what, why don't we just bring you on staff? Because you're constantly sending us stuff. And so even when we were looking to start Average Geeks as its own website at the time, I was like, oh yeah, I used to do that all the time, no problem. And I was just as guilty as everybody else of, oh yeah, I'll write X amount and not writing anything. I think for a while the only person that was actually generating content was our friend Elliot.
Right.
And I mean, it was really great content, but he got kind of burnt out because he was carrying the load for everyone else.
Right.
And so that's a balance that you always have to strike when you're doing that, and there's always growing pains and shifting personnel. And I mean, so that's what it was. And then after a while, it just then it kind of got down to where it was just Tim, myself, and a friend of ours, Brandon. And, we were trying to do this, and it was just always, part of it was just trying to get people together. And because even with 3 people, I mean, it's difficult to get, to set up like a weekly podcast to do something.
Right.
Because we kind of kept scaling back to just something. Like we had kind of let the website go, but we were still, putting out the podcast through Libsyn. And it was just one of those things where you have to have people that are dedicated. Tim, I will say, was always, whenever, say the word and I'll be there. But it didn't fall on Tim's shoulders to set it up. That was on me. Now, Brandon, he would be there most of the time. Every now and again, he'd have conflicts. I mean, a lot of that fell on me because, and I mean, I know this is why I'd said something about talking about Hellblade later, because. And I think you and Brandon, when I sent out that message to you guys, and I just said, look, this is kind of the stuff that I've been going through. Is I had been battling like depression and anxiety, and so it was one of those things where you get in this mindset where you don't want to do anything. Like it's impossible to motivate, and like I've learned a lot about it now that I'm like diagnosed and I'm working through that, but. Like that, so I messaged you guys. I think you guys were the first 2 that I really admitted. I was just like, hey, look, this is what I'm going through. I'm sorry that I'm constantly flaking out on you guys. And it just kind of became one of those things where, then Tim had kind of started doing other stuff because Tim was like all about it and wanting to do something and needed that creative outlet. And I did too. I just wasn't in a space where I could like keep it rolling. But like Tim said, I really fell in love with that Average Geeks name. So I wanted to hold on to that. So as I was kind of mulling that over and, still have the own the name, then I got to talking with one of my coworkers at the bookstore where I work at now, and she kind of got the itch. The same thing that I saw in Tim behind the counter at GameStop. It's like, well, what if maybe like she didn't want to like be like, hey, let's do this, but it was kind of one of those things where we were working like every Saturday, the conversation would come around. So I got to kind of thinking, well, it's something that I don't want to give up on. I still want to try to push forward with. And so that's when we kind of switched over. I was like, what if we just start streaming? Because I figured that would be something where it's not as labor intensive as doing a podcast where you've got to sit down every week. And I mean, people that come in, it looks super simple and it sounds great. Like the level of like editing and beyond the fact of coordinating schedules, like the level of editing and to put out, and especially like as an editor, I stopped doing the editing on Game Tour because I was so much of a perfectionist. It would take forever. So I mean, but as content creators, you want to put out the best that you can, and that so then that in addition to trying to get everybody together, and if you have 3 or 4 hosts, it multiplies. So then that, and then you add in like a jacked up brain chemistry that just like it's impossible to motivate yourself to do anything.
Right.
And it's really, it was tough. So I thought, well, if streaming, I'm going to be sitting on my butt most of the evenings playing video games anyways. And so why not just, it's something. And again, just kind of throw stuff at the wall. What I am always saying to Megan, my partner in crime over at on our Twitch channel, is just, throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And if it works well, it does. If not, it's no big deal. And to just keep doing, to keep doing something. Right. And so, I mean, that's kind of how the Twitch channel came about. Is we decided to just kind of do it because that way I knew I wasn't committing to a podcast where if I started feeling crummy, I wasn't going to be letting people down again with that. And I figured that it would be a way to ease into it with full intention of expanding that out into whatever. And I don't know what that'll look like, right. But as a first step, absolutely. And so then, especially after kind of talking to Tim about that, and with what you guys are doing, and the sense of community and networking and whatnot, I was like, that's how it's done. I mean, I've been I've done a lot of podcasts, and I've kind of been around the scene, as it were, for a while. A long while, actually, when I think about it. And it's like, that's always the key thing. I've seen a lot of podcasts like come and go and succeed and fail, and it always succeeds on that networking and the just being willing to try things. And so, I mean, but that's kind of how, I was like, well, I'll just start this. And, Megan, my coworker that, she also streams and stuff with me, she has been a massive help because she is super great about keeping things on track. She's got that fire just like Tim does of, let's try this, I want to do this. But she's one of the few people on the planet that can motivate me without feeling like I'm being nagged or like without making me feel bad. Right. Because that's the thing, like especially dealing with depression, it's like one of those things, if somebody bails on, on the podcast, I'm like, oh, hey, I can't do it, or if you have to, or for whatever reason, then you kind of feel like, oh man, I'm in trouble now, or, like, right. Like a scolded dog, and you're like, and, so that just becomes like a, it just keeps perpetuating itself. But like, she's been really great about, hey, we need to get back in, and never coming across as like, oh, well, you've screwed something up, which is a massive thing for me, because like I'm beating myself up. Like the whole time when like Tim and Brandon and I, even when we scaled back to the podcast and we're trying to do stuff, I was constantly, every time I had to cancel, most of the time it was just because I was not in a good place to be able to do it, and I would beat myself up. So I'd send that text out, hey guys, sorry, something came up, whether that was true or not.
The truth comes out. Now I know. All right, we got him, guys.
And I would beat myself up and make myself feel even worse, which made it even harder to like commit to the next time.
Right.
So, but yeah, like this has been really good. Now we haven't been streaming for a while. Megan was moving house, has moved house a couple times, and so we're kind of getting ready to do a bit of a relaunch because I've been having, been not feeling so great. I'm working with my doctor still to get stuff sorted. So I've, been in a major, I don't want to do anything. It's rough, right. Here and there. Like I was telling, I think I was telling Enders tonight, I was like, man, I'm on this podcast with with the fam guys, and I'm like super excited, but I also totally don't want to do it at all. And I was like, but I want to, because like it's like, first of all, I love you guys to death, and also I was like, I want to do this to kind of force myself to get out there and kind of kick myself in the ass to do it, just because for my own well-being. Right. And and also I was like, well, I know we're going to talk about Hellblade to kind of get some of that out, and that always is very cathartic for me. And so yeah, it's like and once we're rolling, like I'm feeling great now, but I was just like, oh my god,
it's that
9
getting
o'clock's
there,
coming.
right?
It is. It totally is, and that's like that's a huge hurdle.
No, and I get that. And that was one of the big things that I was going to say, that I was honestly, I don't want to use the word surprised, but I mean, I guess maybe that's the right word, because when Average Geek, for a lack of better words, died. I don't know, because I mean, again, lack of better words, because it just kind of stopped for a long while.
Absolutely
right?
Fizzled out. Yeah.
Right. It was kind of the timing of that happened, and then I was hanging out with Trey and Trevor, and they talked about doing the same thing, starting something up, and Fam came about. I was like, oh, that's great. Okay, blah blah blah. And it was great to see that not too long later, that's a sentence somewhere, that I saw that you were still doing Average Geeks, or you brought it back, and granted, yes, it was just a streaming service, but it was something. The name wasn't dead,
right.
and I was so happy to see that, because I thought the name was great. I loved you. I loved everything about the whole thing that we were doing, and I was hoping that something. I didn't want you to lose the passion to want to do it, right? So I was happy to see that you were still doing something, and still one of my favorite things I've done in Fam was the collaboration me and you had with I know it was only one game, but A Way Out, that was such a fun time for me, because I haven't got to play anything with you in a long time, and for sure. I think we have a really interesting chemistry when it comes to games, especially a co-op game like that.
For sure.
And it was fun. It was fun to play. It was fun to have Fam and Average Geeks side by side, two places that two I don't know what you want to call them, communities, great word. That I was both a part of, just like together doing this thing, and it was a lot of fun. Like I personally had a lot of fun with that. Now Trevor, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I think that's one of the cool things about what both of us try and do. Is just like you mentioned, networking and just kind of playing with different people. Because like you and Riley might have one sort of chemistry, but then you and Zach have a completely different chemistry. So it's cool to see how different streamers interact with each other, because that leads to like different forms of content that might appeal to different people. Plus it helps everyone get their name out there too. Like we're helping build each other up. The fam grows, Average Geeks grow, and everyone benefits from it. And we're all having fun at the same time, which is what really matters.
Now, Trevor, kind of stepping this back a few steps back to the GameStop days. Did you guys ever collaborate at GameStop that you can remember?
Me and Riley?
Yes.
I think we had like maybe one shift together. Something.
Yeah, because it might have been like during the holidays where we had to bring on extra help.
Because I got pushed to Troy. I remember that when you came on.
That was after I left.
Was that after you left? Oh, that's right, because that's when. Yeah, never mind. That's right. It was after you left.
That's when I left.
Yes.
My own free will.
Right.
Because I remember. I remember when Trevor was coming on to take over the store. I think, like I said, I think we might have worked a shift or so together, but then like you were coming in to run the store. And I was having my what was it? My yearly review or whatever with Alex.
Oh yeah.
And so like I'm like, okay, the new manager kid's here. With the current manager kid, because I'm like massively older than either, and so like you were just kind of there to observe, and Alex is going on about, oh yeah, like you did really great with this customer and blah blah blah, and because I had helped him out, she's going on. I'm thinking, all right, good. And that was, I think, the last shift that I ever had. I'm like, Trevor never scheduled me. I'm like, what the hell? Never. But I mean, granted, in Trevor's defense, what corporate was only giving us like 40 hours a week to staff the whole store.
Oh,
yeah, it was terrible.
It was ridiculous.
It was rough. Like I remember having to do shifts like basically from open to like 5 p.m. by myself, and then we'd have like someone else come in to close it. It was especially
bad.
at that store. Especially that store. I know Tim had to do a lot of shifts by himself
that
too.
That store was definitely the redheaded stepchild.
Oh my god.
Right.
Well, it's just like, oh, here's 90 hours. By the way, 40 of those have to go to your ASM. So really, you have 50 hours to split between your SGA and your 4 other reps. Got to be.
Like, make sure that you have someone to open the store and close the store.
Right.
And you have like 10 hours between having an actual game advisor somewhere in there.
Yeah, so that's the reality of GameStop, folks. For chat, you guys that are they're watching is like, it's fun if you're doing it just to need the money and you can like do it and honestly
and
not
for
care.
Fun, right?
But,
it's fun if you go there for fun.
Yeah, it ceases to be fun really quick, especially if you need the hours or like even as a manager. The reason they said that Trevor was talking about doing opens and closes because the store manager's hours don't count. They expect the store manager to just fill in open, close, holidays, whatever, and it's not. So it's
I'll never forget the one time that I was late for some reason. I think it might have been coming from Columbus, and Nick was supposed to show up that day. I opened the store like it was either half an hour or an hour late.
Nick's
so I'm getting out of my sorry, Nick's the district manager. So I'm walking up to the door, and Nick's walking up at the exact same time. There's a line out the door. It's it was not a good start at all.
No,
not at all.
I won't say much about Nick, but Nick is not a chill person at all. I don't.
No.
I don't think Nick could spell chill if you spotted him the hill.
No.
I don't.
Yeah.
So.
But like you mentioned, it is I would not recommend GameStop as an employer at an entry level point.
Correct.
Just because at most you'll get 5 hours a week.
Correct.
Yeah.
So.
But if you're going to high school, anything like that, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah.
You sit there, you stock shelves, and you talk about video games. Like legit, that's what you do. Yeah. So for a high schooler, even a college person looking for part time, it's perfect.
Yes. But I guarantee it's not the dream job that you think it is.
No, it is
it always looks a lot better than what it is.
Yeah, it depends greatly on your coworkers and managers.
Correct. That is the thing. Like when I worked with Trev, we had a great time. We didn't really get a day.
Blast.
It was fantastic. We may have done some things we weren't supposed to, but that doesn't matter. It was still a fun time.
Right.
It was a great time.
I made sure to take care of my ASM at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if Tim was happy, then the store was happy.
And I'm hard to please.
Right. Because Tim was really I came into the store not knowing anyone, and Tim was the one that everyone still knew. So I knew that if I didn't win Tim over, I wasn't gonna have anyone else's buy-in. So had to have Tim believe in me to have everyone else believe in me.
The best part was when Trevor. This was before you got the store manager position. You came in and secret shopped us, and I totally called it out. So we acted like the best employees in the world. Trevor came in, had no idea that I totally spotted him out.
Yeah.
And we acted like we were on point. Like this, and this, and reserve this, and power up card.
It was good.
Power up card. You want the power up card?
Mm-hmm.
And Trevor left, and
you were asking, because I was looking around, and you asked me, you started talking to me about games and stuff. I'm like, this is good. He's actually engaging, trying to get me to pre-order something. This is a solid dude right here. Yeah, I was apparently not. Yeah, I don't know how you cut. Well, I guess probably because you saw me from the interview.
I mean, your friend was Alex. I definitely knew who you were.
What does that mean?
Well, your best, she was one of your best friends, right?
Yeah.
And she was my boss. I knew who you were.
But I'd never been to that store before.
She doesn't ever have a photo of you.
Oh, yeah.
But no, it was just funny because I thought that was funny. But anyway, getting back to Riley and AverageGeeks.
I would before that though, I'd just like to point out. So Tim sniffs out that Trevor's a secret shopper, but Tim. Well, in all fairness, Tim and I both missed the secret shoppers that came in and stuffed a couple of these down their pants.
That's a true statement. That was yep, accurate, 100% accurate.
Yes. We both. There's like 2 or 3 of them. They came in and were chatting with us, and then we got called in the next day, and they showed us the thing, and the dude like we had a floor stack of used Wii's, and they like shoved 2 Wii's down
their pants.
Out. Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
Stretchy pants. Like. Yeah. Definitely happened.
It was.
Yikes.
Yeah. That was a bad day at the office for sure.
It was.
Oh yeah.
I didn't. Yeah. That was oof. That was definitely bad days. Riley also punched me while we worked at GameStop.
I did. The only time I've ever punched a coworker.
Decently hard. He and it was there's no hesitation. I wasn't ready for it. I was just like we were sitting. So for the longest time, Riley told me to play Journey. For the longest time, he told me to play Journey. He's like, Tim, you need to play Journey. You need to play Journey. I was like, oh yeah, I'd get to it. And he told me, look, it's very specific rules. When you play it, sit down and finish it. It's a 2-hour experience. Just finish the game in one setting. It's not one of those games you want to pick up 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later. You just play it. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And I bought it, and I never got around to it. But one time I did get around to it and only played like 20 minutes of it, which was what Riley told me not to do. So we're sitting there, and there's a customer, and
thankfully it was a regular.
Yeah, there was a customer, regular customer comes in, and Riley's up at the counter taking care of him, getting his games ready, and I don't even know what brought it up, but Riley's like, hey, have you played Journey yet? I was like, I played it for like 20 minutes, and he just instantly, zero hesitation, turned around, and it was like fast too, held my arm and just like whack, and then just turned around and went with his business. And I'm just like, what just happened?
Oh, and thankfully it was one of the regular customers. So although that wasn't a regular occurrence, he was just like, yeah, he deserved that. The customer was on my side.
That's awesome.
It was an interesting day.
I don't know if you guys feel the same after working at GameStop for quite some time. Being able to check out games and play them as really we could play whatever we wanted to without having to buy anything, which was a nice perk. But did you guys get burnt out on video games to where you felt like you couldn't enjoy them because you worked around them so much? At least not to the same extent as when you didn't work at GameStop.
Me personally, I don't think I ever got that far.
No.
I mean, just because I played games, and I love games, and games are games, and I thank God, do really good at when I leave work. Yeah. So I tend to not take work with me as best as possible. So I always was amped up to play video games, but this is also because I didn't have a social life outside of work either. So that's my personal experience. I don't know about Riley, but that was me personally.
Yeah, I didn't so much, but at the time I was sort of in a bit of a trophy chase with my brother-in-law, so I would use that as to keep buffering my lead.
Nice.
But I think I wouldn't say that I ever really got burnt out. I was on it because there was always I felt like I had maybe my finger on the pulse a little bit more then because I was constantly researching new stuff that was coming out. Like we would hear about stuff. I mean, there have been points where I've been kind of burnt out, but it was that was like one of the things that out of even when things were like really crummy and you've got corporate chomping your ass and stuff, that was one thing that was always the fun part of my job. It's like that was you would fall back at least.
Yeah.
We can still we sort of have this as a buffer because it's video games.
Right.
But yeah, that was. I don't think I never really felt that. Although one negative I did is occasionally I would check out a game to see if it was something that I would want to buy, and I would play a good chunk of it. And then when I would buy it, I was like, man, I don't want to play through all this again. Or it was so long, like Ratchet and Clank, a Crack in Time. I played a good chunk of that, so then when I bought the game and I went to start it, it had been quite a while, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I don't want to start over. But I can't continue on because I have no idea at all about the mechanics anymore.
Right.
And for those of you who haven't caught it yet, Riley has a son, and his son is a very big person in our community as well. Does anyone know who that person might be at all? Has anyone caught on to who Riley's son is?
This is a huge. Is it you?
No, I wish. No. That is Enders.
You weren't supposed to tell him that, Trevor. That's a secret.
Right. Yikes.
Wait a minute. Enders is how old is Enders now? 15?
He is 15.
15. Enders is 15. We could have talked about that on, his turn last week or whatever. But we're going to talk about it now.
Well, see, that's because in the community he's way more known than I am, so they'd have been like, "Why the hell do we care about Ender's dad? Who's that?"
Ender's dad.
Now it's like, "Oh, his kid's Ender's. We know. Okay, that's awesome." It would be like if you're interviewing like Michael Jordan, you don't, or Tiger Woods, you don't ask them about their dad. But if you have their dad on, you damn sure ask about.
But right. you got to talk about him, right? Yeah, exactly.
Right.
There was a time when we worked at GameStop, and I'll never forget it, because Enders is a very creative person. I don't know how much people know of his creative side. Like, I know a lot of people see his gaming and how good he is at, like, Overwatch and his skills in that department and his editing and stuff, but Enders is very creative with a pen and paper, too. He's just an artistic person in general, right? Mm-hmm. So he came in one day during Borderlands 2 launch and it was self-made, right? This whole claptrap,
we worked on that for a while, but yeah.
He wore this whole claptrap like outfit, and that's
awesome,
fantastic.
Yeah, he had even rigged up. He had a phone that had the claptrap soundboard on it, so he could actually.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, do the lines. So when we took him into the back to let him get it on. So then he comes out and he hits the button. He's like, "Hi there, neighbor."
Yeah,
it was
that's
great.
Really cool.
It was fantastic. That was probably my favorite thing about GameStop was always the midnight launches. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I would work at GameStop just to do the midnight launches and check out games and get a discount. But mainly the midnight launches. Like, those were just fun. And I think a lot of that, again, has to be with the people you worked with, right? So, like, Trevor, I know we had a blast. Riley, I know we had a good time. Like,
oh, yeah.
This is fun.
I remember the Borderlands 2 watching Huber. I'm pretty sure what I did wasn't probably legal. Because I set up a merch booth and sold these posters. And then some other ones that I made, for money. So I'm actually selling them and making money while I'm making money.
No one knew that until now, Trevor. Just so you know.
Well, what are they gonna do for me?
I think as long as you weren't selling them for trade credit, you're okay.
Right,
exactly. There you go.
Just have like a little chip scanner, loading it up with credit.
Yeah.
Sweet, I've got a whole $6. Midnight launches were definitely the best part. I don't think I will ever forget our Battlefield and Assassin's Creed 4 midnight launch.
When no one was there?
Nobody showed up. And it was weird. I thought we did something wrong because 2 really big titles.
Right.
And even though it's Pickwell, we still had really, I'd say decent turnouts for midnight launches. So the fact that we had Assassin's Creed and Battlefield,
right,
and not a single person showed up was just wild.
Yep.
The weather wasn't bad because we were outside jumping on Gabe's car. Jordan was running around with the standee over his head.
He literally had the Borderlands standee on top of him, and he'd run around. So it looked like the standee had legs, just running around. I ran outside screaming, "People, hello, we're open. Anybody, come get your game." It was
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I'm trying to think of the best midnight launch we had when we worked together. I know the console launches were pretty cool.
Yeah, well, the console launches are always neat. A lot of work, but they were always neat. Because you had to do the stupid serial number crap, which made it different.
Yeah.
It was fun, though. I mean, there were definitely fun moments at GameStop, right? The best part about GameStop, we're going to sound all wishy-washy here, is I got to meet, you guys, right? And I've made these connections with people who I'm hoping will last at least my lifetime. Because it's just...
Maybe further.
Maybe further, right. I mean, who knows what'll happen. I mean, it was just that's cool. I'm okay with that. But, that's probably the best thing I could take away from GameStop was the connections I made and the friends I made with the people, right? I kind of always figured me and Riley would still stay somewhat connected because we were pretty good friends after it. Trevor, I was a little worried that we might get distanced just because we live so far away, right? And I didn't know what was going to happen. And I don't remember what you invited me up to. You invited me up to something, and I said, screw it, I'll come. And we had a blast. We just had a blast. I don't know what it was, but then we started talking about FAM, and we just had a good time.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was either. yeah, just something after that, because I was after I left GameStop, and then I mean we probably fell out a little bit there.
I'm sure we did a little bit. I mean, the
But yeah,
distance. It's like a long distance relationship. Okay, it's just hard.
yeah. But we made it work.
We made it work. We found something
made
to
it
bond
work.
over.
I was really surprised. You know, after all the terrible things that Tim said after you left about you, I was surprised.
Right.
I mean, I lied straight to his face. What worse? How worse can it be?
Right. And Tim, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but I actually met Zach from GameStop too.
Oh no! I knew you and Trey were like good friends, like because you guys were like friends through school, which those videos are still amazing, by the way. But
right.
I did not know you met Zach through GameStop because that's how I met him. I met him through GameStop the same time.
Right. So Trey worked at the Huber Heights GameStop first. He recommended me when I applied, so Terry hired me there. And then when we got another GA, that's when Zach got hired. So I became friends with Zach, and we kind of went through the same thing, kind of what Riley was talking about earlier, to where you need this creative outlet. So we kept trying to come up with all sorts of things. Like we had Nothing But Nerd at one point, to where we were trying to do like reviews and YouTube videos. This was before Twitch was really a thing.
Right. Just in TV.
Yeah, exactly. We also had like CMY Coalition. There was another one in there, like a bunch of like really, I don't know, just kind of one-off things that we wanted to make work, and it just fell apart. And Trey was a part of those too. And finally, I can't remember how many times we've tried to launch something like this, but finally we got FAM together. Yep. Me and Trey did, and brought Tim on board, got Zach on board, and everything just clicked. So I'm glad that everyone's finally found that creative outlet that sticks, that kind of works for everyone. Because I know you mentioned it earlier, it's not easy at all when you have 3 different schedules, 4 different schedules, whatever it is, and
because life still gets in the way.
Life, yeah, absolutely. Because this is not it might support some of us a little bit, maybe to buy an extra candy bar for the month.
Right.
But it's definitely nothing that we can give up responsibilities for to say we're going to stream an extra 5 hours or something a day.
Right.
And so it's tough. It's a hard balance, especially with community channels. Especially coming up with a schedule, because if Tim does 3 days a week, I only do the one, and then Trey does 2. So if one of those doesn't work, someone else has to pick it up. They might already have plans because it's their day off.
Right.
I mean, it's like you really are. It's like your own small business that you have to manage, except you're not really making any money.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
But I mean, you have to make those sacrifices to grow, and that's the hard part.
Yeah, you got to treat it like it's a business for it to become anything, to become even close to a business, right? Like, so you have to treat it like you're making money, even though you're not, because it's that important.
Yeah,
if you want it to grow.
It is. Yep.
Now, kind of getting back to with the Average Geeks part of things, you guys have been doing. When would you say Average Geeks started back up? So we'll say things twinked there, they went away, and then you're like, okay, let's pick this back up.
Well, I mean, it was something that Megan and I had, very similar to the way that we started the site. Is just with you and I kicking things around. It was very much Megan and I just kind of bouncing ideas back and forth, and her being new to coming into it. So I don't even know how we came on. I mean, other than that we're both gamers. So we would start talking about it, and I was like, oh yeah, I used to do a podcast, or I used to write for this and that, and so then she was like, it was unfamiliar, similar to when I was talking to you about I was doing this podcast, and so then we got to talking and explaining that. So as that kind of went in and in, on and on, so we kind of started kicking some ideas around, and I think what we had our at the time what we were referring to as like our firm launch was March, I think, because I mean we had been doing it a little bit here and there before, just kind of trying stuff out, just getting the bugs out, like whose computer can run what's the best setup for everybody. We started, I had Brandon was streaming just through his PS4, and he had some spotty internet at the time, so that was a challenge. And then I'm doing PS4 through remote play on the laptop. I showed Tim how I was doing that,
which helped me out a lot.
Yeah, and then Megan, like she streams a lot of like Stardew Valley, but then she also does art streams where she'll draw
Nice.
on stream. So she's tried to explain it to me, and I really need to see it to fully get it. But she actually uses like her Mac and a laptop. She has like this whole like Frankenstein setup through a couple different machines
Nice.
to get it to go. And so yeah, I mean, a lot of it was just kind of that, and she was getting frustrated because she wants me, and I'm like, just look at it as, this is our soft launch, and we'll shoot for like March as a hard launch to get it, and then so that was going well for a while, and as always, we have people, drop off or don't want to commit or don't realize that they maybe should have a microphone when they stream.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Or
Nice.
so, but because everybody comes to it from we're all at different levels when we start.
Right, of course.
And we're doing things, and sometimes it's like I'm a little bit more relaxed on the camera and behind the mic because I've been doing podcasting for so long. I kind of get into that, turn on the content creator, the host, thing, and to where there's different things like that, and some are better on the technical, and some are just like, kind of completely new to it. So it's one of those things like I feel like that's one of my strengths is to just kind of take a breath and chill out and not get too bent out of shape, because I mean it can be super frustrating, especially especially when you're in the captaincy. I mean, Megan and I have had conversations about this, through different iterations and working with different people. And she's like, well, what should we do about this one? And I was like, well, and so I shoulder it. But so when you're in that sort of the captain's chair, it's like that's, then you have to be the one to kind of to run things, and that
Right.
makes it difficult. And you can't, but I've been through this enough to know that if you let it get to you too much and like you come down too hard on somebody or something, and they whatever, it's not going to help.
No.
And
Yep.
so you just have to try to be as patient, but at the same time, you have to draw lines. So I think that's the hardest balance. And I'm sure you guys have been through that, and with different things where it's just being everything's cool and just it's fine until it's not fine, and then we have to have some difficult conversations.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite meetings we had, and I'm just going to talk about it. I don't think we've ever talked about this, Trev, but I think this is funny to bring up. One of our first meetings we had was we're like, okay, we're going to assign a role to everybody. We need a treasurer.
Oh my gosh.
We need a
Oh my
calendar
gosh.
person. We need this person for like, we like our first month of doing this, we tried to assign somebody to be a treasurer. Like we were just going to make
Like all this money was going to come in. We're like,
yeah, no,
we don't know what to do with all this money. We need someone to keep track of it.
So clearly, I offered to be that person, knowing that I wasn't going to have a job for at least like a while.
I will say, because starting FAM, we kind of went into this mindset like, hey, we're all like the leaders of FAM. We're all the heads of FAM. There's not anyone that's like above anyone else. And then we went over this whole role thing, and I will definitely own up to that because I definitely try and get a little too organized sometimes, or I get too far ahead of myself, to where it's like, well, we need to focus on where we're at right now. Yeah, I mean, you always need to be thinking ahead, 100%, or else you're not going to be prepared for it. But yeah, definitely what I was trying to do, and Tim can attest to this, I was burning myself out because I was doing way
it was
too
so
much.
bad.
Tim would call me, and like Tim was worried. Tim was legit worried about me because I was doing so much with FAM. Like I would get home, all I'd sit down until I go to bed, work on FAM stuff, whether it's graphics or Discord stuff or whatever it would be. That's all I was focused on, and it just burns you out, and then you're not having fun with it.
Right.
Right.
I was like, Trevor, you guys still have Trevor time. Like, I know you're excited for FAM, and I want you to be excited for FAM. I'm happy you're excited for FAM, but you still have to have Trevor time.
Yeah, because I mean, I was in that mindset to where like if I don't do this, FAM is going to fail. If I don't keep putting 110% into it, then it's just going to fall apart. And I think now I have a better balance of it. But it's a balance.
It's a balance.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was similar. I felt the same way, like with AverageGeeks. And I mean, I guess in this now it's like third or fourth iteration.
Right.
it's like I've been through that. It's like, oh man, I've got so then like even when we were going through and like trying to do the podcast, I'm trying to balance everything and put and just trying to direct traffic and keep everything running. And then when I'm unable to like even live up to my own expectations, it's like that's just it's so difficult. But but yeah, I know totally what you mean. Like you've got to get everything. See, I almost started when we started Average Geeks back as when it was going to be a website and just sort of a creative outlet for podcasts or articles or whatever, because for a lot of I think most all of us worked at GameStop. Actually, it was all Eric and Elliot, and Molly was going to do art, and so we had
Molly.
my wife is like super like organized and into that kind of stuff, and so she was like willing to help, even though she could care less about video games for the most part. And but she on the organizing side of it, the website side of it, because she has her own site and things, so there was she was willing to come on board to help that. So our initial meeting of the people that were interested and been like, yeah, I would love to help out with Average Geeks, because we had talked to a lot of the people from GameStop and had a couple other people. We all met at Tim Hortons after we got off at GameStop, and so we roll into Tim Hortons. It's like 9:30, and there are a dozen of us. Tim, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
We had to push like 3 tables together, and we're all sitting here, and so like my wife has like got out some just like basic questionnaires, profile stuff for like the people that are going to be writing, just to kind of so she can put stuff in and we can just kind of hit the ground running as much as possible.
Like all that stuff that you can
and to kind of get a feel, so you're not stuck writing about crap that you have no interest in. If we have that just basic organization stuff. And so we probably had 10, 12 people around 3 tables at Tim Hortons. And we're all kind of, setting up, okay, this one's going to do this. And we want to spread out the articles so nobody's like, feels like they have to write a ton. It's not overwhelming. And, I was given our art girl, I was like, okay, this is, some stuff. And so she's like sketching away as we're sitting there talking. And, out of those like 12 people, we ended up with 4.
Yep.
Like that was the last time that I talked to any of this. I'm still waiting on my initial sketches from Molly, our artist.
I'll DM her. Don't worry.
I'll have to shoot her a message on Facebook. But yeah, so it's like I started out with I don't want to get burnout, because I know how I am. Because the minute something stops being fun, I just kind of turn and run. So like I kind of did the opposite. Like I'm trying to delegate. Okay, I'll have you do this, you do this, and then like everyone just ghosted me. It came down to like me, Tim, Elliot, and sort of Eric. And
sort of Eric, yeah, right. That's it.
And so it was just like, holy shit. Now we're like starting back from square one. And some people were like, didn't like the way felt that my wife was being pushy with like her organizational stuff. Didn't bother to say anything. They just ghosted. And so so like but I know from like doing the podcast, I'm like that. Like you're like, I've got to just kill myself to get this done, or it's not going to get done. And then once it stops being fun, then it's just a drudgery.
Right.
So like I tried to start off with the delegation, and that did not work. So like when I kind of started now with the streaming, I've sort of like, all right, I'm sort of purposely taking the reins and being like, if anybody has an issue, let me know. I will handle it. I'll make the final decision. But not in a like, oh, I'm so great kind of way, but just that way it takes, the frustrations that you get between people. That way they're like, oh, well, let Riley handle it. And that way everything can kind of stay chill amongst the ranks. And if I feel, and so it's like, heavy is the head that wears the crown. You still got to occasionally run into that stuff. So like, right now I was actually chatting with Megan a little bit before we got on here, and about, kind of getting things back rolling now that she's kind of resettled and getting everything put back together. But it's like, again, she is totally my right hand man on the Average Geeks front. I was like, because I'd be back to square zero. I'd be, waiting on things to sort out, and brain chemistry to get leveled out again to do this. And so it's nice to have somebody like that, like
Right.
Tim-esque, that that won't run out and cheat on me with a different community.
I just sorry. I'm not gonna lie. When I first started up Fam, because again, it was when Average Geeks kind of sizzled out. I was like, man, I don't know if I should tell Riley. Should I tell Riley? Riley's gonna probably find out. I'm gonna feel bad if Riley finds out. What's he gonna say to me? He's gonna be mad at me. Like, I didn't know how to react, and then there you go, and you did Average Geeks and stuff. I was like, well, I'll just invite him to my house to play VR. He won't be mad after that, right?
Yeah, no, it was totally, because like I said, when I had sent that text to you and Brand at the time about, hey, sorry I've been, so flaking out constantly over the last 9 months, 6 months, whatever. And it was like, because I really felt that I owed that to you guys, because I was dropping the ball left and right. Like, that was, I felt like that was on me, especially like with you, Tim, because you were always, whenever I would be like, hey, can we do it, such and such, Tim was never let me check my schedule. Tim was like, I'm there. That,
Yeah.
And, and then something would come up, and, Brandon or whoever they'd have a legit conflict, or I would fabricate a conflict because I wasn't in a mental state to, and when you're a dad of 4, and it's easy, Jesus, you don't need to make up stuff too often to get out of things. It's because there's always chaos going on.
Right.
So, but yeah, no, I was like, my only like kind of feeling about that was just like, oh man, I'm back to square one. Now I've got to find a new crew, because now my crew is gone. But I mean, I think it all worked out, for the best anyways. But yeah, no, I would not be mad at you, Tim. You are on the very short list of people that I call friends who I've actually had to my house for a meal. So,
that's true. I have, and it was a great time.
Like case in point, Brandon's never even been to my house for a meal. So you're in some rare company.
Yes. Which, speaking of food, I wanted to tell you that if you ever decide to actually do like an episode of Average Geeks Eats, because that was going to be a segment that we were working on back when we were still part of it.
Yeah.
We all liked food. So we're going to go like live video, us go eat somewhere and like do like one of those fancy food reviews on the spot kind of things. I'm always down for that still.
Okay.
Like, by all means, I still love food. That part hasn't changed at all.
That's definitely something that I would we'll get together on that for sure. Cause I had a blast. We went up around Sydney and was shooting test footage and talking to different, like the Chamber of Commerce and stuff.
We did. We went to some weird places I didn't know existed.
Yeah. So.
I remember that day. It was such an odd day, but we did, because that was to start that whole thing up.
Yeah,
I could see Tim doing like fast food, like when they come out with like the newest fast food thing. I could see Tim like reviewing it.
It would be fun. It'd be a good time.
We should do one where Tim reviews. We should do one where Tim reviews that monster ass sandwich that he gets from Arby's.
I remember that because you didn't believe me. Because I think you thought I was pranking you, because I was like, you should go to Arby's and get the Meat Mountain, and you're like, what's that? I'm like, they put everything they have on the sandwich. You're like, no, they don't.
Okay, yeah,
okay, whatever.
Yeah, you're a liar. And then I got one for me and Stewie, and we're like, oh my god, there's chicken tenders on it even.
Right.
Chicken tenders. And I ate it. I want that to be known. I ate that whole sandwich.
Do you know if you do that now, they actually send you a Wendy's onesie?
What?
Yeah, like if you eat the Meat Mountain, I've seen it on Twitter. Because I follow Arby's on Twitter, because they're always like really funny.
Because they have funny things.
But yeah, they send like this meat. It's like a onesie, but it has just like meat patterns on it. So you should eat another one and like take pictures of proof and then tweet it out to them, and then they'll DM you and send you like a onesie or something.
Yeah, I can totally do that.
Yeah, I would, but I don't think I could finish it. I'll be honest. I know my limits.
It is a big sandwich, but it was delicious in every way. So let me ask you a couple questions about yourself, Riley.
Oh God.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about actually Riley. Oh wait, I see a little head there.
Yeah.
Who is that? It was a person, by the way.
This is.
Oh, there he is! Look at him! Oh my god, dude! I remember he was so small the last time I saw him in person, and he made an incredibly inappropriate saying at GameStop, and it was the best saying in the world. All I know is about some guy trying to touch his butt, and that was.
My gosh!
Do you remember that?
That was yes. Okay, so all right, all right. I'm gonna get back. I want to address something that I saw in chat, but we have to tell the story where Riley almost punched an octogenarian at Walmart. So we're I forget if just my two youngest like would have been, I don't know, 6 and 2 at the time, or I don't know which combination of kids was with me, but we go to Walmart and somebody had to go to the bathroom, so we go into the back and to go to the bathroom, and I come back out and I'm waiting. I think it must have been one of the older ones, and as I'm kind of standing there, I turn around and look because I hear the bathroom door. So I look over one shoulder and I see this old guy. He was a Walmart employee. It must have been a greeter or something. Kind of come shuffling out of the bathroom. So I'm like, okay. So I turn back the other way, and about the time that he would have been passing behind me, I feel somebody like brush across my butt, like a hand on my ass, like across. And I was like, oh my! And as I turn, it was this little guy who was like about 4 at the time, like had just been absentmindedly like walking behind Dad and had his hand on me, and I thought I was getting felled up by this old dude. And I was just about to whirl on the dude, and I looked down and saw my kid. I'm like, oh my gosh, you about sent Dad to jail. But yeah, that was great. I had forgotten about that story, Tim.
So imagine that story, but a 4-year-old trying to tell you it. Like that was the best part.
Yeah. My daddy almost punched someone in Walmart.
Right.
That was
It was great.
And Tim's like, what? Tim got this look of like concern and dread on his face. He's like, what? I'm like, okay, let me back up and explain what's going on. I don't just randomly
we might need to add a few details in there.
Unless they don't finish Journey in one city. So. All right, so I noticed something in the chat here a while ago from Joshy Fun. He pops into my channel once in a while when I stream, and he was asking, what is GameStop? I only know Steam. Well, GameStop is like Steam, except you can trade games in for drug money and then buy pot in the parking lot.
Correct.
That's which is something we would joke about until I actually saw it happen one day. I had come in to get my schedule, and when I went back out, some guy was in there trading in for cash, and my wife and kids were in the car. And when I go back out, she was like, that dude just bought drugs in the parking lot. Like, and I was like, are you kidding? So I called back in, and I told him, like, you know how we always joke around about people selling their games for weed money? This dude literally just bought weed in the parking lot.
You can always tell the people that come in, like, this person's going to trade in these games for cash. Guarantee it.
Yeah.
And they're like, yep, I just need cash. And they don't care how much they get. They just need something.
They don't,
Just to kind of have one more nod towards GameStop. There's always that one customer that we will always remember from GameStop.
Oh, no.
There's one customer in general that I don't think any of us will ever forget at GameStop, Riley. And if I have to say the name, I'm going to be a little disappointed. I'm not, because I know Trevor already knows. One particular customer. Very, the GameStop, like, Pickwa's, like, when you would think of the residents
if you
of
think of Pickwa, this is it.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I know exactly who we're talking about. Good old, and his mom, right?
Yep, and his mom.
Yeah, and his mom.
Yep.
And his girlfriend.
And his, oh my God, oh my God.
Good old Coke. I wasn't sure exactly if you were going there or the couple that used to come in and smell so terrible.
Oh no, I forgot about those guys. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But no, my favorite.
They cleared out a place. They smelled so bad.
They did.
Yeah.
The RASM would follow after they left. She would go around with the air
spray
air freshener.
Yep.
It was so bad.
It was awful.
But yeah, my favorite Coke bottle stories. And for people that can't grasp the standard Pickwa customer, when I was still at the mall GameStop, we had this customer, Coke bottles. He had really thick glasses. He wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't
a bad kid.
He wasn't a bad kid. He was a terrible customer, bad kid.
Right.
But not a bad kid. Anyways,
he's innocent in his own way is weird.
and he was there was another customer in the mall, or from the we were in the mall store, and he comes in and we were chatting, and I think we asked him, I forget what it was. Anyways, he was from Iowa, and apparently this blue Coke bottle is mine because he chimes in. He was in their shop, and he's like, Iowa? You mean like Iowa Piqua? Like, he apparently thought Iowa was like some parish of, a small, and I'm like, no, like Iowa the state Coke bottles. It's, yeah.
Oh
I
my
was just
gosh.
like, and the other customer like was just like, what?
Like, how do I
Like,
reply to this?
how do I get out of this? Like he really looked like he fully expected to hear banjos any minute, which I don't blame him. It was not.
The worst thing I remember, the story I always tell people, my one story I always tell people of Coke bottles, is the time when he came in, and if you guys remember the old school 360 bricks, like the gray bricks, right, that we used to take in, right? So he was that customer who would come in and trade in everything that he ever had to get that one game for 50 cents. Like, that was him.
Yep.
So we used to take in those power bricks, and they were like $4 tops, like something like that, right? And I remember taking that in, turning around, because we had a giant back counter, setting it on the back counter, and bugs from the little holes on those power bricks just scattered everywhere on the counter. Like, everywhere. Just drop, poof, they just went. And I love bug Pokemon. I do not love bugs in real life. If you know me, you'd know this is true. And I flipped out. I was so grossed out. I didn't know what to do. It was just a bad time. I threw it away. Like, I didn't even, I shrank that crap out. I wasn't, nope. I was just, nope. It was, like, that's how there it is. That's pick what customer.
Would you say that is, because that's one question I want to ask, what everyone's worst trade-in story is? Would you say that is your worst trade-in story?
Oh my God. It was it terrified, it terrified me the
horrific.
absolute most. To watch just, boom, bugs. Like,
I thankfully never had one like that. I mean, obviously you get the ones that smelled real bad, like cigarette smoke or cat or whatever animal. But yeah, I never had one like that. I had the only kind of weird trade-in thing was before the mall store closed, we had a rush where, like, for 2 or 3 days, the ASM and we would have people come in and like trade in a console and like their entire collection of games. One was like, all his friends are on PS3 or Xbox or whatever, so they brought in his entire collection and traded it all out and swapped it over to the other system. But I had this lady come in and she traded in a Wii system, and like she had like 4 controllers and a bunch of games, and I don't know what she ended up getting. But when you take in a system, you have to have a controller with it.
Right,
and
of course.
So, with the Wii, it's the Wiimote and the nunchuck.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing all her stuff through, and she says, "Oh, well, did you didn't give me credit for all the controllers. I had 4." I'm like, "Well, one has to come in with the system." So I explained it to her, and she seemed a little put out, but I'm like, like it wasn't a big deal. So apparently she calls the store then the next day, or whatever later that, and then talk to our manager, the acting manager, and was like all kinds of mad. And they're like, "Well, come in and we'll look over it and see." And well, I had just gotten there when she came back in, and she was all, soccer mom mad, and comes in this, and blah blah blah. And I like, it didn't dawn on me that I was kind of being a dick until afterwards. But she, showed me, and I was like, "No, look on the receipt. I told you that they come with a controller." Well, it didn't come with a controller when I bought it, and I was like, "Well, ours do." So I go in the back and I get a brand new Wii box, and I come out and I set it on the counter. I flip it over and I'm like, "Look, right there it says comes with Wiimote and nunchuck." And she's like, "Well, whatever." And so she stomps off. And afterwards, like, I was working, I think it was like Eric and JJ and Todd.
Oh
and
my
Eric's
God, JJ.
like, "Damn!" Riley, like, slam that down. I'm like, I wasn't trying to be a dick. I was just showing her that I didn't rip her off.
Right.
I think
That's funny.
my hands down my favorite trade-in story though it didn't happen to me, but it was I don't know if either of you guys remember Nate. He used to work at the Huber store. It might have been before your time. But
Ben Dixon?
Yeah.
Yep.
He said he explained to us one time why he refuses to take anything out of a bag when a customer brings it in. If it's a trade-in, because you'll get these customers that'll come in with a big old bag of, like a Walmart plastic sack or a big trash bag or, whatever, and they'll set it up on the counter. I want to trade this stuff in. And so normally, we would dump it out or go through, and Nate's like, nope, I won't do that anymore. He said he was doing it one time, and as he's emptying out the bag, a tooth fell out of the bag. And he was like, I think that belongs to you, to the customer or whatever.
No.
He was like, after that, dude, I will not. He's like, they bring a bag of stuff in, I'll just be like, go ahead and take it out for me. And, after he told me that, he was like, hand to God, a freaking tooth fell out of the bag.
That's disturbing.
He was one of my favorite people from GameStop. Nate's a good dude.
Do you have a good trading story?
Me?
Trevor?
Oh yeah, I've got my favorite for sure.
What's your favorite trading story?
I mean, I've got a few like weird ones, like to where we had like a Wii that came in that had like jelly on it. And I had like a few like bug ones, where bugs are crawling out of the system and stuff. But my very favorite was this guy came in and just wanted to trade in this duffel bag full of stuff. He just had a bunch of gaming stuff in here. He just wanted to trade it in for cash. So I'm like, okay. So we know that there were consoles in there. So at the Huber store, we tested the systems in the back. But we would have the door propped open so the customer could like stand there and see like what we're doing and all that.
Right.
So I'm taking everything out. This time the door was shut. He was just like, yeah, just take it to the back. I'm going to look around, whatever. So I'm like going through the systems and stuff. I'm taking stuff out of this big old duffel bag. He's got like a Super Nintendo in there, like a bunch of like stuff we can't even take.
Right.
And then as I'm like taking things out, there's a box. And I pick up this box, and it's a box of edible panties. And I'm speechless. So I don't know, I just like put everything else in there. I don't even mention it because I don't want to have that awkward conversation. I give the guy his bag back. I'm like, hey, this is the stuff we can take. Like the guy had to have realized it later. When he's
unpacking it.
Yeah, and he's like, oh shit. But I'm not gonna have that.
You should have these traded for 10 cents.
Right. But that was probably the weirdest trade-in story for sure.
Wow.
And yes, Rama did work at the Huber store. Yep.
That's terrible.
Yep.
Wow, it's fun time. I feel like we could talk about GameStop forever.
Oh yeah, there is one more. It's not a trade-in story, but it was in the closing days of the mall. Things got super super weird as we were getting closer and closer to the mall store closing. Like massive trade-in things. We had the ASMJJ and I had just a couple of days of like people coming in massive sales, and part of it was the time of year because people were getting their refund checks back and whatnot. But I had this couple come in, and they were young, probably in their 20s. I would say early 20s, and he kind of comes in with that swagger. I'm like, yep, he just got his check. So they're like, oh, I'm gonna get a 360 and 2 controllers and a DS for his girlfriend. Like his girlfriend's younger sister was there, and he was like, oh, do you want him to get you a 3DS too? Well, like the dude was just like ready to lay out some cash.
Right.
And normally like that would have been a big thing, but for whatever reason we had several huge transactions, so it was just like it's just another Tuesday. So like he's laying out all this money, and so it comes to, I forget how much it even came to. It was a big chunk of change, like $700 or something, which was huge for the Pickle Mall store. And so he's like laying out all in cash, and so the one, I forget if he said it to her or she said it to him. He was like, well, so much for rent this month. And
no.
She goes, and she's like, and her reaction was, oh, but not, oh my God, the rent. It was, oh wait, what about my phone? We got to get my phone. And he was like, oh baby, don't worry, we'll get your phone fixed. That's the rest of this money's going to go to get your phone get your phone
Oh my
fixed. And I'm just
gosh.
like, dude, you just dropped almost $1,000.
Yeah.
Or, with your
Priorities.
refund, but, so much for rent this month. I'm just like,
My.
Jesus.
Oh yeah,
That
I had
was-
people come in and say that they're using like their disability checks and welfare checks. Like they were very like open about what that money was going or where
Yeah.
that money was coming from.
That's just
People just do not care.
that's so
just like-
crazy to me.
Dude,
Yeah.
that was insane.
I will say because I worked at 3 different GameStops, so most of my time was spent in Huber. Then I was ASM for a little bit in Springfield, and then finally became SM at Piqua. And I would probably say, as the 3 of us know how weird the clientele
Right.
can be in Piqua, but the thing about Springfield is that the customers were rude. It was
really?
like it was a weird mix. Like you had some weird ones there, but everyone was really rude there. Like I remember asking a guy, he just like bought like one game or something. I'm like, oh, do you want me to bag that up for you today? He's like, the fuck you think? You want me to bag this up myself? And I'm like, yeah, like just like,
Wow.
like
I'd
you
have
know,
been,
you're
like, handed
thinking,
the bag.
oh, right.
That's so. Just because I saw it in chat, I don't know if this qualifies as a ghost story, but it might. So I'm going to talk about this real quick. Do you guys remember Seth, Salt and Pepper Head, Seth?
yeah.
The one that
worked
salt
there.
and yeah, he had salt and pepper hair.
Yeah.
Good
The
guy.
one that,
Yeah.
he came.
the
He
one-
was your ASM, I think, for a little bit.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
So there was a time when I was working with him, and we were in the back, the little back room at Pickle, okay? And there was a stationary, very tall ladder stationary. And it hadn't moved in who knows how long, because we don't use that ladder very often. And I'm sitting there, I'm just talking to Seth, because he's talking to me about his day. He's pissed off at something, because he always was.
Yeah.
And I just remember just staring up and like zoning him out for a second, because I could just see all of a sudden that ladder just start to move. I didn't say words like, hey, get out, or move, because that would have been smart. So I'm just sitting there and I zone out looking at all of a sudden this ladder and it's slow. It's not like, oh, hey, by the way, boom. No, it's just like yeah, like it's going
Right.
like that.
Crazy.
And he just kind of sees my face, and like right before it like would slam down on it, he kind of ducks out of the way, and I kind of put my arm on it. I really hurt my shoulder that day because I don't know why I thought putting my arm out, which by the way, if this was ladder, this is him, this is me. I put my arm out over here, so it's not like I was going to protect him in any way,
Right.
But I did it anyway to just, I guess, stop it from falling on the ground. But it was terrible. Like I went back and watched that video, so I probably still have it on my phone because I recorded it, because it was the creepiest I've never seen. It was just like it was weird.
That's crazy.
Do you remember what we did one time at work? We had a funeral at work one time. Do you remember?
Oh, the bird.
Yep.
Oh, that was the saddest day ever. We still talk. I think we share that every year when it comes up. Like I think every year
Oh, yeah.
we're just like always remember the bird.
Yeah. It was this bird that like ran into it just ran into the window or something.
And you
There's-
got a box and everything.
Yeah, we had like a little gift card box that we put it in, and then walked out back, and there was like a little sewer grate.
Pond thing, majigger.
Oh yeah, it was something like that. I don't know.
And we just
Just
like
put it in the box and, yep, office style.
we let Jordan run the store for the rest of the day. It was
Yeah.
Jordan Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun. So we're rounding a little bit. Was it an hour? A little over. We're gonna hit you with these rapid fire questions. So I hope you're ready.
Oh,
'cause
we're getting
they're-
right into the rapid
We're
fire.
gonna go right into the rapid fire. So
Sure.
you ready for these rapid fire questions?
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
And then we'll talk about a certain other subject that I want to talk about, but I want to hit you
Okay.
with these. Okay, so you ready? Here we go.
Yes.
Starting off, number 1, pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Hell no.
Biggest fear?
Spiders.
Spiders. Sonic or Mario?
Mario.
Would you rather die in space or die in the ocean?
Space.
What fantasy world would you live in?
Narnia.
Ooh. Would you rather fight 100 kindergartners or 1 Olympic bodybuilder?
100 kindergartners.
Would you rather be completely invisible for one day or be able to fly for one day?
Ooh.
Now you have to walk around the nude if you're invisible.
So
Now we're getting into details.
just another Tuesday, right? I would say fly.
Fly. What is, because I know you're a fan of the series, what's your favorite Borderlands game?
Ooh. The first one, except for the final boss.
Okay. Okay. Jedi Master or Sith Lord?
Sith Lord.
And do you prefer, it's probably a given, but would you prefer a console rig or a PC rig?
Console rig.
There you go. Congratulations, you survived. I think you did that quicker than anybody
Survived
else
the
too so
gauntlet.
far. Good job. Good job. It was a tough one. You think you'd take 100 kindergartners?
I think so. Well,
Like,
yeah.
they're all coming at you at the same time.
It's at least going to be easier.
It's not a one at a time kind of
I'm
thing.
used to beating kids.
No,
So,
that's a valid point.
that's a joke. Twitch, don't TOS. I'm kidding. I don't really beat my
TOS.
kids.
FBI, open up.
Yeah. The FBI is going to make a stop at my house. They're going to wait till I come to your house and just get us both.
It's gonna be a 2-for-1. They're gonna get Riley and Tim.
Well, hopefully it's not the cops that were supposed to show up to Trevor's, because they're never showing up if that's the case.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about Hellblade, because I want to talk about Hellblade.
Yeah.
Now, Trevor hasn't beaten it.
Okay.
I don't know. Have you beaten it?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So, Trevor, what was the last thing you did? You did the bird boss.
I did the 2 bosses. You start off and
Okay.
you've got the 2 rats you have to go down, and
Right.
that's as far as I got.
So, without, I guess, crazy spoiling anything, how do you feel about the game? What did you feel about the game?
Wow. Okay. So I kind of, as I heard about the game coming out, and the more I heard about it, I was like super jazzed about it. Just because I thought it was super interesting in the way that they were, especially personally from the mental health aspect and stuff, in the way that what I had heard. So I was super jacked about it, and I was like, I knew I was going to get it day one just because I was super intrigued.
Right.
So I kind of went into it from maybe a little bit different perspective, looking at it than the average person, or than maybe what some people. But I absolutely loved it. It was super cathartic. Because it was rough. It was rough to get through. And I've since watched some other people play it on Twitch, and after the fact, and it was it's still, but I mean, I played it obviously with headphones on.
Oh, you have to.
Which is how
Yeah.
I play most of my stuff anyways, because I game usually later at night when people are in bed. So yeah, it was super oppressive at times to constantly have those voices
Right.
in your head, and to be, because I've never, even though I don't suffer from psychosis, I don't hear voices, I feel yet as
Right.
but I mean, anybody, anytime that you try to do something, you have that inner voice that, am I going to be able to do it? If I don't, do 24/7 for fam, it's going to go down the
Right.
tubes. It's, anything like
Trevor.
that, you constantly have that. And, so, but it does add, if you factor in, any kind of a mental illness, even with depression, it adds another layer to that. And, so it was rough to get through, but it was also very cathartic. I loved it from that aspect of it. It was super, almost therapeutic playing through it.
Because it's not super long, right? It's
It's
actually
not.
really not that long.
It's
12
not that
hours,
long.
I think.
Yeah.
Like 10, 12 hours.
And so yeah, it was real. I think the one, the biggest, one of the biggest impact moments was definitely when I defeated the well, for me it was the second boss. It was the illusion, the bird boss.
Oh,
The bird boss.
Yes.
Just because because I'm going through the mechanics. You're going through the mechanics of playing, and that one I felt required was a lot more technical from what you had to do. So,
Correct.
It was a lot more taxing from a mechanical standpoint. But just with every boss fight, you get so engrossed, and it draws you in that you really feel this like that you're engaged in battle. It's a
Right.
And so like I honestly when you get that moment of catharsis after she defeats the boss, and she just kind of that release and that finally, like I started to tear up because like it was so it just really hit home for a lot of the shit that I was going through at the time and really struggling with, and even just just the representation of just the oppressiveness and whatever, but it was just like that really hit home. And so up until that point I was like, wow, this is really good, but it was sort of at that moment it went from this is a really good game, not just a really good $30 or $40 game, like this is a really good game, to this is really something special on another level.
Right. Because the reason I brought that up, one, because the game's phenomenal. I like to hear people talk about it. But two, you literally asked me, have I ever played that game right as Trevor about started it.
Oh,
I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because the game on PC was out for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it came out on console recently. And I was like, oh, Trevor. And we talked to Alice. And I think Alice is finally the one who pushed him over to try finally play it.
Yeah.
And it is definitely it deserved every reward that it got at last year's Game Awards. It deserved.
Yep.
It deserves to be played by people who I guess can handle that kind of game, because it's just it's not so much a scary game as much as it is just a what the hell game.
It grinds you down. Even like I would think even if you if there's not any sort of mental illness, you don't have anything, it is just a constant like grind, like mentally, because you constantly have the voices in your ears constantly, and sometimes they're helpful and sometimes they will bullshit you to like, oh, you're going the wrong way, or and so you're never sure whether or not you can believe what they say. So and once you get to that point, I kind of just try to ignore them, because like, okay, there's not really anything behind me, or maybe there, but then when you try to tune them out and not listen to what they're saying and just kind of like as background noise, then it's just like this dull grind, and it's just constantly, just unrelenting. And so the few moments where she's sort of free of that, where they're not just constantly, chirping in your ear, it's like, oh my gosh. And then the minute they come back, you're like, oh, sweet Jesus, not again. It's
right.
But it was so, and going into it, like I said, I thought it was a really neat concept of the way that they, had worked with, mentally ill people that suffering from psychosis, and through the foundation and different that. Also, I'm a big fan of Ninja Theory. I loved Heavenly Sword. I loved Enslaved.
What are you gonna do now that Microsoft has taken them?
That really hurt my soul. That really
Xbox,
hurt my soul.
You gotta get that Xbox.
I may have to. That something like that might be a system seller, depending on what they do next. As long as they aren't, like completely neutered. If they're left to their own devices and continued,
of course,
allowed to continue to be Ninja Theory and put out that kind of stuff, I would totally be on board, because it was just, I don't know if you guys are playing it, have played it on console or PC. Either.
I'm doing PC.
Yeah, I've been playing PC. I haven't played on console.
Okay, so I started it up on PS4, and I am not. I mean, anybody that knows me listening to the podcast, I'm not like, I could really give a crap about graphics. It's not whatever. But when I started it up on PS4, standard, not pro, I was absolutely blown away at that moment where it goes from cutscene to you have control of the character. And, I was just like, wow. And I thought, well, maybe I'm a spoiled console gamer. I always tell people. So I thought maybe it's just me, and my small worldview, kind of, because I don't do a lot on PC. But Enders actually came out of his room as I was starting the game, and he stopped, and he's like, holy crap, is that gameplay? That looks amazing. Like, and he always gives me crap because, his games on PC always look so much better. But, like, he was even blown away at, like, just how amazing it was. I mean, obviously, all the motion capture and the emotional Andy circuit, that's all there. But I was really blown away from a graphical standpoint, especially when it was a budget title.
Right. It wasn't it wasn't like announced a lot. There was no real commercials for it anywhere. It was definitely one of those word of mouth games more than anything else. Kind of like Kingdoms of Amalur, if you guys know what that is. But it was kind of the same things where there's games that were very word of mouth games. But and some of the 90% of the time, those games are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But I'm happy you've enjoyed it. I'm happy, and I think everybody listening, if you didn't hear it from the last time we talked about it, it's definitely worth playing. It's a fantastic game.
Absolutely.
I'll finish playing that tomorrow. I don't know if I'll beat it, but I'll definitely continue it tomorrow.
Continuation.
For sure. Right.
It is. Because
I need to get
super good.
If I don't get to it before the World of Warcraft expansion comes out, I'm just not touching it again. So I need to knock it out before that. That takes away all my free time.
Is Uncharted still your favorite game series?
Uncharted, I would say so. Uncharted and Portal honestly is a super close second. It really kind of I would say that Uncharted's probably number one, but I have by far went back and played through the Portal games a lot more than I have the Uncharted games. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was honestly blown away by the what was the newest the Uncharted thing that they put out game with Chloe and Nadine as the main character.
Oh, I never played that one. I know what you're talking about. I never played
it was originally supposed to be the DLC for Uncharted 4, the single player expansion. So if you bought that or paid for it, you got that for free as a download.
Oh, nice.
I mean, they also sold it as a standalone, and I was really, really impressed because it was a shorter, more concise story. But I was blown away at how well it worked as a story. It didn't feel like an Uncharted spin-off.
Okay.
Chloe and Nadine totally carried their own thing. Never once was like, man, I wish Nathan was here. Right. It's like I said, it's shorter, it's more concise, so they didn't have as much to fill. But I think a lot of times where some of the things, sometimes the Uncharted series has a tendency to be a bit ham-fisted with things of like, hey, we're Uncharted, remember? This is funny. Let's do that,
right.
Which, I mean, and a lot of media suffers from that. And so I was kind of concerned that that's what this would turn into, that this is, oh, look, Chloe, but, remember, we're Uncharted, and this is funny, and we do this.
Yeah.
And, but there wasn't any of that at all. The pacing was absolutely fantastic. It was, I highly recommend it, like, for, if you're at all, obviously fans of Uncharted, but definitely play it. It's really, really good.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I'll check that out myself. I like the fourth one. I still think the second one was my favorite. I don't know if anything will ever top Uncharted 2. It was that game was just great. But no, I'll have to check that out. I didn't know it was that good. So that's good to know.
I was very pleasantly surprised with it. I was really just kind of jonesing for some more Uncharted, and I got way more than I hoped. So
right.
Which, by the way, speaking of more Uncharted, have you guys seen the fan film?
Yes, and it was amazing. Okay, first of all, you have Nathan Fillion in there. It's perfect. It's a whole thing in itself. So I'm so happy he was willing to do that because, yes, I need more.
Okay, so I had talked to Enders about this after, because finally I was probably like a week behind before I finally got to watching it. And the one thing that he and I both agreed on, the one thing, what would you guys say if there was something that was off about it? What would you guys say that was? Because he and I agreed on when I said it. He's like, yeah, that was.
If there was something
there was
off?
one thing that just seemed a little less than perfect. Like an 8 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10.
Sully? No, I thought Sully was pretty good. Nathan Fillion, all that stuff. I can't. What are you thinking? Because I can't think of
the only thing, and it wasn't bad, and it wasn't bad. It was just, and it was a casting choice. I felt like the casting for Elena was just not
okay.
She wasn't spot on. Like the Sully guy when he first showed up, I'm like, I don't know if he can. And then 2 lines in, I'm like, all right.
And he has a freaking
Sully.
cigar and everything.
Elena, there was just a little bit of discordance there that didn't quite click with me. I mean, she did fine, but that was definitely fan film.
I wouldn't let it ruin the movie for me, right?
No. But like everybody else, I think every other, and good God, the guy that they cast to play the main bad guy, he was in Banshee, which was a fantastic show, and I love him to death. He's a fantastic actor. But I just felt like everybody on there that could easily translate to, that was big screen bad guy. That Nathan Fillion definitely big screen Drake.
Right.
The only one is like Elena felt like fan film Elena. She didn't feel like big screen Elena.
And that's the thing. They called it a fan film, and I was surprised because, like, for it being a fan film, they had some pretty big people in there, and like, I wonder if there's like a message there. I wonder if they're trying to say, hey, look, we can do an Uncharted movie with or without the help of any big producer out there.
Yeah.
So
I would say it definitely
like
went
to
off
see
better
one.
than without David O. Russell
Oh my gosh.
directing.
It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Trevor, do you have any questions, last moment questions for Mr. Riley at all?
I don't think so. I think we covered quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, I mean, this is about an hour and a half, yeah, roughly.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think so.
I think this is a good place to kind of wrap things up here. Riley, as always, great talking with you. Thank you, firstly, for being on the show, and I'm sure we'll have you back. I want to get you to one of our lovely Columbus events with you and Enders and whoever wants to come, because I think you guys would have a lot of fun, and we'd have a lot of fun having you guys there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you guys out there who are watching live on Twitch, and we'll get this up on all our standard places, which is what, Trevor? Is YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, or whatever it is now, Google Podcasts.
Google Podcasts, because they like to change it up.
Yeah. and then make sure you follow Average Geeks on Twitch.
For sure,
if you haven't already.
It's a bit of a wasteland now, but we've got things cooking. I was actually talking with Megan before we came on here, so we're still alive.
They're there. It's not going to die. It might be gone for a little bit, but it'll always come back. Riley will keep that going.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So yeah, definitely check them out because they're a lot of fun. Riley's a good time, and I'm sure we'll do something with you on our podcast or on a game because I still want co-op stuff. There's plenty of those co-op games.
Yeah.
For sure. Quick hi in the chat to Josh and Amari, two people I recognize from from my chat too. And Enders, I see him in chat too. I can just throw something and probably hit him from here. So, but yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. This has been a lot of fun. Definitely want to do it again. Definitely have to do some more co-streaming and
for sure.
And yeah, we should run through A Way Out again and just switch characters.
And this time I'll win.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, thanks guys for tuning in. Hopefully you guys have a great night. Thanks for everybody listening wherever you're listening to. And you guys have a good one.
See you guys.
Bye. Guys.
Thanks for listening to FAMcast. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, as well as our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/forallmanakind. You can also find our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, and Spotify, so make sure you follow us there to keep up with the latest episodes.